Yes.
What is Shas exactly? Is that
Shas is the entire Talmud.
Why do they call it Shas?
Shishas Darim, the 6 orders of the Mishnah. That's the acronym.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, maybe learning Shulchan Aruch will be just as helpful.
I believe our Shulchan Aruch just got in from Israel
Oh, nice.
to LA, and then God willing we'll figure out. Hey, is anyone going to LA this week? All right, not all at once. I'll find somebody.
Where in LA? My son's going probably on the weekend to Studio City.
Beverly and La Brea.
That's right in the heart of Fairfax.
Yeah.
But this guy might be able to meet him somewhere, so.
I'll ask him.
Okay, yes, if not, I'll find someone else.
How was it for you driving over here?
From Grand Valley, the rain was so heavy. I was holding onto the wheel and just praying that everything would be fine. It was fine.
We're on page
Thank
Kuf
you.
Tzadik Zayin. Kuf Tzadik Zayin.
We're in here then.
Yes.
We're back in Rabbi Yosef Masas. Last week we started with Rav Ovadia and we ended with Rav Ovadia Yosef and Moshe finds it. We're going to get back to it. I was just skipping ahead to prove a point that Rav Yosef Masas is not the mainstream opinion on the topic.
That goes as I recovered from the wreck.
But I'll tell you the truth is, page Kuf Tzadik Zayin.
What? I can't find it.
Kuf Tzadik Zayin is going to be the last page of the packet.
But
Kuf Tzadik Chet, so go one page before that.
You have
Okay.
any page?
That's Kuf Tzadik Zayin.
oh, sorry.
You can use this, I only have this.
I have an extra one.
Oh, he's got an extra one.
What happened to the rest of it? Oh, you have the packet, okay.
Yeah.
It's right here. I don't know who stapled that one because it's out of order. I can't start Kuf Tzadik Zayin in the right place. Because the right place is, you see the bottom left where it says Bet?
Yeah.
That's a second letter. It's a one letter, but it's a second topic inside of the letter. The first topic was about conversion. And this letter is very famous. It's a famous letter that starts on the page before, Kuf Tzadik Vav, which I was questioning whether or not we should. The leg on your end, if you want to straighten on the right table. No, not on the tripod, on the table. On the right, the table.
Table?
Just pull out the leg towards you as much as you can, so it won't wobble. Perfect.
Oh,
And so this letter is one of Rabbi Yosef Masas's many letters that talk about conversion. And whether you do a backhanded conversion just for the sake of saving a family, for people keeping people together or not. It'll be, Yosef writes a whole long letter, and the bottom of Kuf Tzadik Zayin on the right side where it says Dalit. Let's read that one. He writes about the danger of not converting somebody who comes to convert. Here it's kamapamim. It's happened numerous times that a couple has come to the rabbi because the wife is not Jewish, and they want to convert. And it happens sheisha lo netgeira, that the woman did not convert. Why? Mipnei shedacha ota rav ha'ir, because the rabbi of the city pushed her away. V'lo ratza legeira, he did not want to convert her. V'nas'a le'ir acheret, hi u'ba'ala, and she traveled to a different city with her husband. I know people in this town with the same story. V'kav'u sham diratam, and they established their residence there. B'cheskat shnehem Yehudim, when they let people believe that they were both Jewish. Is she Jewish?
No.
No, but who knows?
They live
Prove
together,
it. Two people. Someone comes to your shul and says, "I'm Jewish." Prove that he's not Jewish.
If they live
kids aren't
together
Jewish
for
either.
a while, you husband and wife, and they can be Jewish.
What?
If you live together for a few years, they become a common law wife and husband.
They already are married civilly. Here they want to get married religiously, and the court won't convert them because, like today, there are always these rabbis who don't want to convert anybody. So she goes to the next city and she says, I'm Jewish. Prove that I'm not Jewish. How do you find that? Well, she doesn't know anything. Well, how many Jewish people do you know don't know anything? Everybody doesn't know anything. So it's not like there's she doesn't even know how to read Hebrew. How many people don't know how to read Hebrew? Everybody. That's a normal thing. So she goes, she established herself as Jewish, and they had boys and girls. And the daughters became wives to Jewish men.
Uh-oh.
And they also had boys and girls. And after 50 years, Nod'a, the top left column, HaChatat, the sin was discovered, Shasafta, that the grandmother, Lo Nidgera, never converted to Judaism. Sha'az kol tzetza'eha nochriyot hena. All of her descendants were not Jewish, at least the ones who came from her daughters. V'hayu mehumot rabot mize, and it became a terrible controversy about this. V'chen iru shte uvdot lefanai bet Lebsen. He said, don't think that it's just a theoretical story. Just two such cases came before my Beit Din in Tlemcen in Algeria. B'yoti misharet sham HaKodesh, when I served as the rabbi there. V'chen ira be'Waharan, and it happened in the place of Waharan. V'Algier, and in Algier. U'be'ir Blabas, and it happened in the town of Blabas, I don't know how you read it. U'be'ir Wajda, in the city of Wajda. V'yesh mehem, and it happened, she'atzetza'im nitgeiru achar amal rav v'tala atzuma. And some of those descendants, a minority of those descendants, ended up converting after much effort and much fighting. V'yesh lo zutgeir. And some didn't want to convert. I'm Jewish. Who are you to say that I'm not Jewish? I went to Jewish school. I went to shul. I had a bar mitzvah. You tell me my grandmother isn't Jewish? What did I do wrong? V'nasun melchakim, and so they left the Jewish community to other cities. V'nitmeu, and they became absorbed into the non-Jewish communities there. Umi Hashem b'chol zeh? And who is guilty of all of this? Harabanim hamitchazdim, the righteous rabbis. He's laughing at them. The righteous rabbis. She'enam chachamim, that are not wise enough, lirot et hanolad, to see what will be in the future. V'totzaot hazman, and what time will play out. They're sitting in a bed. I want to be religious. I don't want to convert anybody. But the alternative, what's the alternative? You're willing to allow this entire scene to happen, and it does happen. I'll tell you the truth. Many poskim write, they write that this whole idea of telling a convert, we don't want to convert you. Why? Because why should I, just because a guy has a non-Jewish girlfriend, I have to convert his non-Jewish girlfriend? He should get his act together and find a Jewish girl. That opinion of our rabbis, many poskim say, that only applies in a situation where if you don't convert him, he's going to leave her because he's not going to marry a non-Jewish woman. But in a world of today where they're going to get married anyway, so they're not going to come to you, they'll go to another place. And if not a reform or conservative rabbi, they'll just do it civilly and they'll get married. How many of them might even go to her faith? Because there they accept him. So what did you accomplish? You accomplished nothing. Nothing. Your righteousness is destroying the entire Jewish community.
No state.
What, they tell you, oh boy, everyone is going to come to the door, you're going to let them in? Are they in already? Do you know of a synagogue that has a policy that intermarried couples are not allowed to pray there?
Not allowed?
Not allowed? Do you know of a school that has a policy that intermarried couples can't come to the school? No, so what happens? They pray with our families anyways. They're going to eat with our families anyways. They're going to go to school with our families anyways. They're going to end up dating each other anyways. And so who's responsible for what's going to happen next? The rabbis that are not willing to go down that road. It's a no-brainer to me that the entire conversion system that we have up and running today is not a system. It doesn't work. It creates whatever problems the Jewish community doesn't naturally have, it creates the rest of them.
The main thing is not allowing kids to go to the Jewish school.
But they do. They go. So what's the today you have two students, they meet each other at a Jewish Federation event. I'm Jewish, you're Jewish. You think they ask if my mother is Jewish, your mother is Jewish? They're coming anyways. They're going to date each other anyways. They're going to go to the movies together anyways. So you as a rabbi saying, I will not convert them. I have principles. What are you saying, essentially? You're just taking responsibility for the rest of the problem.
You're abstracting a principle from the reality that's in front of your face.
Very good. This is the problem with halakha in general. But very few halachot have ramifications that are national. That they can change the entire nation of the Jewish people. This is one of those halachot it's a national issue.
What's beeping out
So there's a cars, maybe one of your cars is parked on the other side.
there?
I mean, the other part, one of your cars is beeping.
Did he hit them?
It's
Stopped.
It's yours?
It's stopped now.
Okay, sorry.
Fortunate.
And Rabbi Yonatan says, you know how many times he's done a conversion like this? And it wasn't really the most, you have righteous people that come to join the Jewish people. You have people that are doing it out of convenience. They're married to somebody, they want to date somebody that... but do you know how many times after a person is so involved in the Jewish community, they actually become serious? They actually become involved? They actually become responsible Jews? Come with them. It's a very big deal. I had a student once whose father is Sephardic. His mother was a convert to Judaism. His family didn't want people, they were from a certain Sephardic group that unfortunately suffers from an illness that doesn't accept conversions to Judaism. They ended up moving to another city. And he's a very wealthy man, like one of these hedge fund, in the financial world. And his wife single-handedly built one of the most successful Sephardic synagogues in the entire United States. She is the president, the board, I don't know exactly whatever, but she built it from the ground up. She took nothing and built a huge Beit Knesset. Like thousands of people, not hundreds, thousands of people. There are such. So who are you to judge that just because they're getting married, just because sometimes listen, every Beit Din has the right to make decisions. I'm respectful of that. But the one thing that Beit Din doesn't have a right to do is not recognize another Beit Din's decisions. So inevitably you'll have Beit Din will say, I don't want to take with my responsibility, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to deal with this kind of couple. But there will be another Beit Din who will. So on what grounds do you say that they won't? The chief rabbi of Yerushalayim, who was then the chief rabbi of Israel, issued a statement that should have made the Jewish world go crazy. He believes that the state of Israel, the chief rabbi of the state of Israel, has the right to annul conversions. Yeah, he believes they have the right to take away someone's Jewish
It's
status.
happened, hasn't it?
Sure, it's happened.
Really?
It's a very famous Rambam. The Rambam says that if somebody converts in front of three Hedyutot, three ignoramuses, three monkeys on the mikvah, I don't know what they're like, they're hanging out over there talking about their favorite football game, about the Oscars, about whatever they're talking about.
How
Talking
much
about
is
the
that
Orthodox.
monkey in the mikveh?
I'm talking here about, and if someone comes to the mikveh and says, hey, I accept upon myself Torah his left, he jumps into the mikveh. Alright, gets a Brit Milah, jumps in the mikveh, whatever happens. This person says, the Rambam Harei Zegeh, he's Jewish. The poskim right there. The poskim right over there. What does it mean he's Jewish? In every regard. And anyone who will say that this conversion is not valid, our rabbis say he is one of the people who teach us Torah in a sinful and deceitful manner. You don't have the right. How much more so three rabbis that are actually Talmidei Chachamim, just because they wear a different colored kippah than the way you would like, or I don't know, they pronounce Hebrew differently than the way you'd like them to pronounce Hebrew. And they do this. The chief rabbi does this a lot.
Would you say it's one of the main reasons for the huge growth of the reform movement? Is this lack of the ability to bring people in a more reasonable way?
I wouldn't hang. Well, I don't know that I would label the movement that successful.
I know a
in general,
lot of
but
people.
I wouldn't label their success on that. I would label. I would hang the success of the reform and conservative movements in general at the lack of courageous rabbinic leadership in the Orthodox world.
You know how many people I've seen who have tried to get Orthodox conversions and then went to reform?
Yeah, no, of course.
Over the years?
But this is not.
Many.
It's not the only reason. The reason is that the reform and conservative movements are both a reaction to a very specific type of Judaism. And there are countries that did not have reform and conservative movements. And the reason was because there was no need to react in such a way, because the problems didn't exist in such places. you could read history however you want, but this is a fact on the ground. There was a certain fanatic, extremist element of Judaism that people reacted to. They're still reacting to. There's still more movements. Every day they make more movements. The lack of vision in terms of conversion is not the only thing that they're reacting to. It could be approaches to halakha, approaches to women's issues, approaches to whatever approach it will be. Secular education, to the state of Israel, all kinds of whatever leads another person to break away. What those groups tell you is not that they're right, but that there's a problem. And so long as the Jewish community will refuse to deal with that problem, then we're going to keep having breakaways. Part of the problem is definitely our conversion system. But like I mentioned before, the people who control the conversion system today, 100 years ago, never converted people to Judaism. It was illegal in the countries in which they lived to convert people to Judaism. And therefore, for them to have any kind of monopoly over a system that for 2,000 years they didn't deal with is a very terrible thing.
It's because of the
No
authorities,
experience with
not in the countries where they live.
Well, like the
Absolutely,
Christians would say,
sure.
you're not allowed to convert.
You can imagine converting somebody in like Warsaw. You can imagine.
Or
It's
Spain.
a life sentence. It's a, in the Sephardic countries, conversion was a very normal thing. It depended on, not everywhere. In many countries, yes, though. North Africa, for example, there was thousands of years we have a tradition of converting people. And so for people who historically have no experience, they know the books, but not the reality of what it means to run a bedin for conversion. How? I mean, Rav Yosef Masas is dealing with the reality. There's not a theoretical Talmudic argument he's bringing you. I've been sitting as the chief rabbi of Tlemcen for 27 years, and these are the problems that happen when we say no. So who can question that kind of experience? Today, the Jewish community. That's the problem.
In the Israeli army, a lot of people
Where? In the Israeli army.
came from Africa. They converted, became
They asked everybody who said if those conversions were valid. Because I'll tell you the truth, the conversions of the army are like a few steps above the three guys in the mikveh story. They're not. It's not a really holy ordeal going on. It's a national conversion by big Talmidei Chachamim. I'm not taking away their status. Everyone knows that it's a certain system. You just go through the system and you become Jewish. And there was a big, when I was in Israel, 2011, I believe, 10, 11, there was a huge controversy whether those conversions are valid. And the Lithuanian rabbis, Rabbi Yashiv and so on, ruled that they were entirely invalid. Invalid. And Rabbi Yonatan Halevy ruled that they were absolutely valid and that he would take personal responsibility for them. And he said that part of his logic was, remember the story of when you ask a person, so if the Jewish people were going to be killed, would you still be Jewish? So if somebody's willing to put their life on the line and still be, I mean, they know that they're going to battle for what? For a Jewish country. Again, this is going to be an approach in Hashkafa. The Lithuanian authority, they don't view this as a self-sacrifice for the Jewish people, but for an evil Zionist state which they view in such a light. And so you have to understand it comes from a different philosophy, a different approach. And Rabbi Yosef said, listen, there are three rabbis, there was a bedin, the conversion is a conversion, and there is, if you would ask him what the protocol should be, he might not agree to that protocol, but definitely they're valid. The next day I went to go buy books in the HaShamayim neighborhood in Kehillat, where my in-laws live, in Yerushalayim, and the walls were graffitied with pictures of Rabbi Yosef, and I have pictures in my house if you want. Pictures of him, so you don't have to take my word, you can just come to my house and look at the pictures yourself.
People hating on him.
Saying that he's not Jewish, that he's a reform rabbi, that he's whatever, that he's one of them wrote he's a chotel machtit rabim, he's a sinner that causes others to sin. And they actually wrote at that time, there's a group in Jerusalem that said we're going to have to, because you have evil rabbis like Rabbi Yosef, that they're going to have to start a new book of Jewish lineages to make sure that when we get married to a person, there shouldn't be anybody who had anything to do with those rabbis that are evil people that lead the Jewish people. And so,
Except that they don't use computers.
it's going to be a book, a real book. It's going to be. But this
Luckily,
is.
they don't use computers maybe.
It's a classic case of those who dealt with conversions practically, and those who it was just a theoretical discipline of Judaism to them.
Shanghai, one couple when tried to convert, the number one question, do you believe Rabbi is Messiah? If they say yes, now go home.
It's a good question.
If you believe the Rebbe's Mashiach?
Yeah, they don't convert them.
Oh.
They don't convert
No.
in
But I thought
current
Chabad doesn't convert
It's not a
people
Chabad,
anyways.
it is the other group they're trying to convert them.
Oh.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It happens
Just an
so many
awful
times.
word
Wow.
for rabbis to talk
That's
about any
what
other rabbis because they don't
we have the
understand the
advantage
thing.
to tell them.
It's
If somebody
untenable
asks you,
for them to
Rabbi
get like that.
Messiah, say no. Then you don't have.
Let me ask you this
chance.
question: the chief rabbi that just went to prison for 4.5 years. Did you hear anybody say, "Oh, maybe his conversions are going to be annulled"? Listen to me, guys. In the Jewish
Kids,
community, you're going to have the following
kids.
story: people can steal, they can rob, they can abuse children, they can harass people, they can molest people, they can do whatever it takes, and they'll still retain their title rabbi. They'll say that some kind of food is kosher when other people think it's not. They're going to be lenient, like Rabbi Yosef Masas, when it comes to conversion. They're going to put out a ruling on Shabbat that goes contrary to what something else. And all of a sudden, they're not a rabbi anymore. They're not Jewish anymore. Their parents weren't Jewish anymore. And this is true. That's a sickness in the Jewish community, not a good thing in the Jewish community.
No.
This is a problem. This is a real problem.
Well, it gets back to what we were talking about in terms of the very delicate balance of halacha. That if you go too much one way, then you can ignore a whole other area. And
That's what happens.
let it
Essentially,
slide.
one rabbi worded it that we're not lenient about conversion. We're very strict about intermarriage. You just have to know what you think you're being so strict when it comes to conversion. In essence, you're just creating more and more couples that are just going to leave the Jewish community and live together anyways. This is something that happens every single day. Every single day, every single day. I don't have another. It's a pressing matter for the Jewish community. Everyone talks about the intermarriage problems. There's some things we cannot help. Some people that they don't want to be Jewish. They want to step out. What about the solutions the Jewish community could provide to couples that are intermarried or thinking of getting married and they're intermarried? The Jewish community wants to take no responsibility for it. Well, here all the time. Every time I go to some rabbinic convention or outreach convention, as speaker goes, the 500,000 Jews in the next 10 years are going to marry non-Jewish people. My question always is, so what are you going to do about it? What's your solution? Oh, we're going to make more Facebook videos. You're like, there's a fire, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw ice cream at it. You have to get a fire truck. Sometimes you just have to do what it takes. I'm not telling you right now to convert 500,000 people to Judaism. That would make a mockery of the conversion process. But couples that really want to be a part of the Jewish community, they really do. And they're willing to follow basic guidelines of Jewish life. Not ask them tomorrow to become the chief rabbi. Maybe it's not so hard anymore. But people want to they want to be part of it. So help them. Come to this whole thing of pushing people away and 3 times. It's not mentioned in halakha anywhere. It doesn't exist. It's a fabrication of someone's imagination.
3 times is great.
We've studied the Shulchan Aruch together. You studied here with me Shulchan Aruch. It didn't mention. You studied with me the Rambam. It doesn't mention it.
It's short.
Very short. It says Mekablin Oto Miyad. You ask him a few questions and immediately you let him in. It's unbelievable. What about the other things? I've heard already people send them for 7 years to yeshiva. Let me ask you a question. There's the same rabbi that won't teach Torah at a university because he can't teach non-Jews Torah. Yeah, but so why 7 years in a yeshiva when he's not Jewish? That's okay. Like you said, he's being strict in one thing. He's being lenient in another thing.
What is the guarantee after 7 years you'll remain Jews?
I don't know. Send me to yeshiva for 7 years.
Does someone have? Is there some sort of advanced book like the? It's not the Shulchan Aruch, but it's someone like the Mishnah Brura or someone else who ruled on this and then developed it much further and got deep. That's like such a respected posek that we haven't heard of, or
there have been many rabbis that have dabbled in it, and it's one of those areas that since the founding of the state of Israel, most poskim decided just not to get involved in it because it's the first thing the chief rabbinate will persecute you for. So they just decided not to write about it. So why is it worth my time? There already is a court system. So I don't like it. What am I going to do? I'm going to fight the whole world. So there are rabbis who have been asked questions, they answer questions, but either they're going to be from the affiliated or from the unaffiliated with the chief rabbinate conversion circles. The modern issues that face the process today, those were only dealt with the rabbis who actually converted people to Judaism. And most poskim didn't. especially not the ones who are very vocal about being strict. All the rabbis that do conversion around here, none of their rabbis converted people to Judaism.
What?
Listen to what I'm telling you. None of their rabbis converted people to Judaism. They didn't sit on a bedin. They didn't even have a bedin. They weren't even dayanim. So where did they learn it from? You learn it in a book. I learned a lot of things in books. I'm not a shochet. If I would kill a chicken tomorrow, but again, I didn't study laws of shchita. I would kill a chicken tomorrow. It would be taref. You can't eat it. I don't know how to. I don't know how to shech the chicken. So just because I'm a rabbi, just because I'm able to read through the Shulchan Aruch, doesn't make me qualified to deal with areas that require actual training from somebody else. The laws of conversion are a tradition. We have 2,000 years we've been doing this. So then learn from people who did it. And if you learn from somebody who did it, then those people were very strict. So fine, at least that's a tradition. But to invent a new tradition, that's already, how is it any different than the Reformed conversions they don't like? It's also an invention of a tradition. That's what I'm checking here. That's I just can't skip this review. It's the same letter, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's right on our face. So.
I think the difference between something like a Reform conversion and what Rabbi Masas is talking about is that you could say that the halacha and all the writings are like a web. They're all connected one strand to another, and there's a connection. You can make that connection back to the original source, back to Har Sinai. Whereas something that you just come off the top of your head doesn't have that connection. Like there's no halakhic basis for saying a person's Jewish because their father's Jewish.
A rabbi once worded this properly. He said the difference between an innovative rabbi and a reform rabbi is very simple. It has to do with the respect of what is old. He said there are some who don't respect what is old and therefore they create new, and there are some who create new out of utter respect for what is old. And they might reach similar conclusions, but the process tells a world of a difference as to how they deal with something. And then I'm not putting all Reform rabbis in the same category either. Do you know how many Orthodox rabbis in their youth were so disillusioned with the Orthodox system that they became conservative rabbis, they became Reform rabbis? How many yeshiva university graduates just they didn't want to serve in an Orthodox pulpit, or they couldn't serve in Orthodox for whatever reasons they could, and they traveled out into the rest of the Jewish community. You can't put all of them in a box. There are some people who left for valid reasons. They felt there was a problem. In the conservative movement in the olden days, there were some big rabbis that came over from Europe. And listen, I don't know, you lump something to conservative Orthodox. These are boxes that halakha doesn't recognize. These are people who were world-class Talmidei Chachamim in Europe. They came over here, and they had to make a choice between being what they felt was being confined to a system that had no flexibility to it, or to be the head of, to be the head of wolves. Maybe it's not the tail end of a line, but it's better. It was better for them to have the freedom they needed to reach the places that they needed.
Was Avram Heschel a conservative?
Yeah. So Abraham Joshua Heschel, Saul Lieberman.
Yeah.
You have, and listen, they're not my rabbis, and I really don't dabble in this field. There are some people who really are excited about this, but I just view that as a tragedy. As a tragedy that somebody who clearly was charismatic enough and knowledgeable enough and a scholar enough to make huge differences in the Jewish community, that felt that just whatever the Orthodox bubble was didn't do it for them. It's a tragedy. It's not a good thing. You lose people because there's just no choice.